Out of nowhere, it seems like Deebo Samuel has taken over the football world. But my man's been working at this for a while, so I don't think it's a coincidence that he's doing his thing.
Garoppolo hit as he throws, a wobbler down the sideline, and it's caught! Deebo Samuel with the catch!
Out of Inman, South Carolina, Deebo grew up with a unique drive that kept him from backing down to anyone. When he was young, his father noticed that as a toddler, he would be taking things away from other people, and so he gave him the nickname Deebo after the bully from the movie Friday. I would say Deebo Samuel has a much better ring to it than Tyshawn Samuel, so it seems like it carried well. Anyways, Deebo dominated in high school with over 2,700 yards and 38 touchdowns throughout his time at Chapman High. Not only did my man do his thing on the offensive side, but Deebo was a stud on defense with nearly 100 tackles and 12 picks. After such a solid end to his time with the team, Deebo was named the High School Sports Report AAA Offensive Player of the Year. A bit of a handful to say, but it proved that he was no joke. As a 3-star recruit at a high school, Deebo had schools like Maryland, Appalachian State, and South Carolina all interested in him. Of the bunch, it only makes sense that Deebo would stay close to home, and upon that get the shot to go up against some of the best teams in football with South Carolina. After redshirting his freshman season, Deebo was looking to show why he did his thing at Chapman in his second year, but it just wasn't in the cards. That season, he only ended up playing in 5 games, with only 3 starts due to injuries. A hamstring injury in the opener against North Carolina was not a good sign, and prevented Deebo from doing all that much, as he had just around 160 yards and a touchdown on only 12 catches. After such a frustrating first actual season, Deebo went into his sophomore year looking to cause some damage. Even though it seemed like a stretch after an injury-plagued freshman season, Deebo was able to do his thing with over 750 yards receiving, but surprisingly enough, only 1 touchdown through the air. Not only did he just kill it in the receiving game, but my man rushed for nearly 100 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground to prove just how much of a unit he was. After establishing himself as a legitimate threat whenever he stepped onto the football field, Deebo was looking to take it to another level the following year, and he was looking good. Through his first 3 games, Deebo not only had 250 yards receiving and 3 receiving touchdowns, but upon that 30 yards rushing and 2 insane kick returns. No joke, Deebo took both of his 2 returns to the house, and was looking ridiculous until the season ended abruptly. Against Kentucky in week 3, Deebo got hit and broke his right fibula as he missed the rest of the year. Although there was hope of him coming back eventually, a sprained foot in rehab kept him off the football field that year, and gave him only one last season to prove himself. Going into his final year with SC, Deebo was looking to do his thing, and although he could have committed for the draft, the whole injury fiasco left him wanting to prove just how good he could be. That season, Deebo looked great with nearly 900 yards and 11 touchdowns as he was able to launch his draft stock after teams saw what he could bring to the table. Although it was a great year as a whole, surprisingly enough against Clemson, Deebo was on demon timing with over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns as he showed just how motivated he was to do his thing. After such a year, Deebo was selected to the Senior Bowl, and a certain team from the Bay noticed. Deebo went 36th overall to San Francisco, as he was immediately launched into a great situation with talent all over the field, from Jimmy G to George Kittle to Emmanuel Sanders and everyone in between. Although a bit of a packed roster, Deebo was still able to leave a mark with over 800 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air, along with over 150 rushing and 3 on the ground. Nearly 1,000 yards as a rookie is not too shabby of a stat line, and even helped San Francisco make a Super Bowl run. Although the team took an L, Deebo still did his thing with a Super Bowl record 53 rushing yards, along with an additional 39 in the receiving game. All in all, I would consider his rookie season a success, and so going into his second year, he was looking to show out. Although he had high hopes, Deebo was placed on the non-contact football injury list in late July till early September. You would think that would be all, but a week later, my man was placed on IR and missed another 3 weeks. After months and months of waiting, Deebo was finally activated on October 3rd, and did pretty well through his first 4 games with over 180 yards and a touchdown, until once again he was taken off the football field and placed on COVID protocol as he missed a decent bit of time once again. Even though it was a roller coaster of a start, Deebo was still able to come back against the Rams with a vengeance, as he had over 130 yards and proved that he could still do his thing after a million setbacks. The following week against Buffalo, Deebo did his thing once again with 70 yards, but it was pretty much the end to his season as he left the following game against Washington early following foot problems that carried from the previous week. To say the year was up and down is like saying the sky is blue, but nonetheless Deebo was still able to do his thing with nearly 400 yards and a touchdown in his limited time playing. After such a weird year, Deebo is looking to establish some consistency the following season, and I would say he's done pretty dang well. In the first game of the year, Deebo was on demon timing with nearly 190 yards and a touchdown in what was his best performance as a 49er. When you start off a season with a game like that, you know it's going to be legit, and his nearly 150 yards over the next 2 games just further proved it. Although a bit less than his nearly 200 in the opener, it showed that he could put up numbers time and time again, and so going into Seattle, Deebo was looking to prove himself once again. I would say over 150 yards and 2 touchdowns showed that Deebo was not joking around. And not only just that, but I think it proved that he could play at an elite level. Through his first 4 games, Deebo has a league-leading 490 yards and 3 touchdowns, along with the top 5 17.5 yards per catch. Even though this production is likely coming to an end sooner than later, as of now Deebo is looking nearly unstoppable, and it's exciting to watch. Crazy enough, Deebo has had 2 over 70-yard touchdowns with both Jimmy G and Trey Lance, and in fact had his best game with the Lance man in Seattle. The ability to adapt to the changes around him is second nature to someone who has dealt with as many injuries as much as Deebo, and so I don't think he really cares who's under center. Crazy enough, it seems like Deebo has taken back his role that Brandon Ayuk captured the previous year, and honestly he's gone above and beyond so far. As of right now, Deebo is looking like the best player on the team, and it seems like the fans have noticed the stud as well. I mean, it makes sense that people would notice someone making history with the second most yards through the first 4 games in team history. By the way, if you're curious who he's behind, it's just some guy named Jerry Rice with 522. That season, Jerry was able to do his thing and made his own history with the then NFL record 1,848 receiving yards that stood for 2 decades until my man Megatron did his thing. To be compared to the best wide receiver in NFL history is pretty awesome, and shows what the South Carolina stud could do if he keeps it up. A colleague of Jerry even talked about putting Deebo among the best of the best this year, and it makes sense considering he's the league leader in receiving yards through 4 games. Although a phenomenal stat line, the Cheetah is right on his tail with under 40 yards less, and could have easily passed him when this video drops. But as of right now, Deebo is averaging a ridiculous 122.5 yards per game, which is crazy enough a bit more than Jerry's 115.5 during his record-breaking year. Comparing the two is a bit foolish considering the Hall of Famer was able to keep up that level of talent the entire season. But this season is interesting for Deebo, since he has the added advantage of an additional game to make up for any hiccups. Even though it's great to talk about, realistically I'm not expecting this level of production to continue for that much longer. But I still think Deebo could make his first Pro Bowl with some solid numbers this year. Keep in mind that Deebo is doing all this in the same offense as one of the best tight ends in football, so I think it's a testament to just how good a player he is, and shows that he can hold his own in the Bay. Although it seems out of nowhere, it only makes sense that Deebo would be given so much love, since he has an over 130 quarterback rating when targeted, and nearly 10 yards after the catch. All in all, it seems like Deebo is playing on a different level from what he has ever done before, and it's just fun to watch. What do you guys think? Will Deebo keep this up, or is this just a one-of-a-kind start? Anyways, Deebo Samuel is making history this year out of seemingly nowhere, but my man has worked his entire life for this moment, and he is not leaving anything on the table.
Bobby Gold was done before the game started.
Yeah, that's when you know you're snake bit.
Here is Samuel!
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed, it would be awesome if you guys could subscribe, like, and comment down below what stuff you want next. But anyway, see you all soon, and peace out.